The first line of Fukanzazengi, Master Dogen's instruction manual for Zazen, blah 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 blah, Fukanzazengi can be translated to universal recommendation of Zazen for all people. And the opening lines of the popular version, there's several versions of it, is the way is originally perfect and all-pervading. How could it be contingent on practice and enlightenment? So this question isn't sort of a philosophical question, or at least it wasn't for Dogen. It's the one that he asked all of his teachers, during his training in Japan, and none of them could give him an answer that was satisfactory to him. And it was the question that motivated him to take the arduous trip to China with his teacher Myozen and meet with as many Chinese Zen masters as he could. And it drove him from monastery to monastery after he could not get an answer to the question that satisfied him. It's the question that drove him to continue going to meet with masters after his master Myozen died. And finally, motivated him to speak with Rujing, Dogen's teacher who gave him Dharma transmission, who helped him to resolve this question. The question, the way is originally perfect and all-pervading. How could it be contingent on practice and enlightenment? Core teaching of Buddhism is, that all beings are enlightened. And Dogen wondered, well, okay, if that's the case, then why do people have to practice so long and hard to realize it? If the universe is already perfect, why doesn't it feel that way? And even after we practice a very long time, why doesn't it always seem that way? So there's a real existential crisis in this question. And the word perfect is one of those words I think that can really trip us up because often we think about it in terms of something is perfect if it has no flaws. But actually, perfect means complete or whole, or to make complete or whole. So if the universe is already complete and whole as it is, if we are already complete and whole as we are, why doesn't it feel that way? Why do we have to work so hard to realize it? So even inside of that question is this idea that there's um, a state in which we feel complete and whole, and then there's a place where we are now and we have to like practice hard to get there. And the point of Fukanzazengi, universal recommendation of Zazen for all people, is that the practice and wholeness and completeness are the same thing. If you would think for a moment of somebody that you could be a person or a furry family member, or maybe a scaled family member if you have like a lizard you really love. Think about just a being you love just completely. And maybe this is someone or uh, an animal that isn't perfect in terms of without flaws. Maybe if it's a person, it's someone you've heard talk about how they have flaws and wish they didn't. Or they say, if only I could change this, or only get rid of that, or add this other thing, I'd be better. And I want you just to imagine that person in front of you with all of their features, even the ones that maybe they evaluate as flaws, and just sort of think about what you would subtract or add to that person to make them complete in your eyes. And my guess is that when you take that perspective, there isn't anything that you would add or subtract. In fact, the things that maybe seem like they need to be fixed are actually the things that make that person, that furry family member, perfect. Exactly them, not mistakes. The way is originally perfect and all pervading. How could it be contingent on practice and enlightenment? It's already perfect the way it is, then what would practice have to do with improving it? And how could it be more perfect at some point? Every one of us has a version of this question that we carry around. Maybe you've been told as you were growing up, or even by people in your life now, that you're perfect the way you are, or don't change a thing. Just like notice the internal resistance you might have to hearing things like that. Well, if you only really knew, or yeah, but what about this? It's hard for us to accept that right now everything is whole and complete. And that's why we need to practice. Practicing completeness and wholeness is enlightenment. It's not a thing, practice is not a thing we do to get to a state where wholeness and completeness are achieved. We're not aiming to perfect or aim to hit the target. The aiming is hitting the target. In fact, the target doesn't even matter anymore. It's just aiming. This is a really important teaching. And this question, the way is originally perfect and all pervading, how could it be contingent upon practice and enlightenment, is an invitation for you to practice and look deeply into that question. The resolution to whatever your version of that question is will come in your practice and through your practice. Doesn't mean you'll, you know, have an answer in the logical sense, but eventually you give up on looking for an answer and just become the answer. In Zazen, we sort of just sit. We just sit as we are. We manifest and practice the way being originally perfect and all pervading. So we're going to look into the rest of Fukanzazengi for the rest of the year on Monday mornings. And Dogen has some interesting things to say about practice. Even though the universe is originally perfect and all pervading, all of the great masters, including Shakyamuni, practice very, very, very hard to manifest and realize that. Zen is a verb. It's not a concept. It's not an idea that we, get and say, ah, got it now. It's a practice and a process.